Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we gotta talk about Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks going after the folks over at MSNBC, Morning Joe to be specific, because Morning Joe did a segment about how you should never, and I mean ever, criticize Kamala Harris. You should only go after Trump, and nobody likes when you say the quiet part out loud. And Ana Kasparian, on her arc of trying to be more honest, trying to be more objective, cannot let this stand. So we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
But there's a false equivalency going on in the coverage of this race.
Their objectivity actually is not objective at all. It ends up playing to Donald Trump's advantage every day.
So one of the things that absolutely cracks me up about this Morning Joe segment is that if this was a sketch on some kind of conservative version of SNL, people would say it's too unbelievable. Right there, Joe Scarborough just said the objectivity of journalists is actually favoring Donald Trump, aka objective reality favors the evil orange man. This is crazy in every possible way, and I will point out that the coverage of Donald Trump is absolutely horrible. There's a graphic that's going around that says ABC's coverage over the last month of Kamala versus Trump is 100% positive for Kamala, 93% negative for the evil orange man. So the idea that these people are neutral, which I would think Joe Scarborough is talking about neutrality because objectivity is being objective, it's not true at all. It's completely tilted in the other direction, but they see the numbers in the polls slipping. They see what I've been telling you over and over again, that Kamala is not a good candidate, and they're in full panic mode.
In an effort to appear balanced, to appear objective, mistakes are absolutely being made, and standards are being applied to both candidates here when Donald Trump is a different animal. He is an insurrectionist.
Yeah, so right there they say, hey, look, the standards and all that, they're being misapplied. We need what's called double standards. One set of standards for the evil orange man and another set of standards for Kamala Harris. And by the way, we see this time and time again in the coverage of these two candidates. Kamala Harris steals the nomination from Joseph Barr Biden via a coup, doesn't do an interview for 6 weeks. When she does her first interview, she does it with Tim Walz, absolutely bombs it, and during that course of time, the evil orange man does 35 sit-down interviews, but they pretend that Kamala isn't hiding from the media. It's actually the evil orange man that is in hiding, and he's running scared. That's what we call double standards. We got two sets of standards.
Well, the crew over at Morning Joe on MSNBC, you know, the same crew that wanted Biden to continue running in this presidential race despite the fact that he was suffering from clear cognitive decline. Yeah, those people, they're furious that journalists would have the audacity of ever reporting anything negative on the Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris.
So listen, Ana Kasparian is coming down hard on the MSDNC crew, and I'm going to give her credit for that. But there's a thing that she's just dead wrong about, and that is the idea that Joseph R. Biden shouldn't have stayed in the race. The fact of the matter is, Joey Biden is a better candidate than Kamala Harris, and recent polling that actually dropped today shows that Kamala Harris is actually at a lower point nationally than Joe Biden was when he dropped out of the race. According to a Marist poll, Harris is +1 in the popular vote, and Joe Biden on July 9th through July 10th is +2. So again, think about it. Joe Biden, horrible debate performance, a lot of different problems that are pissing off the American people in his presidency. And then the media turns on him. They start attacking him over and over and over again. They try to force him out of office, make him resign. Biden's fighting back, but they still keep hitting him because they want him gone for the race. And after all of that, still +2 nationally, which by the way would be losing the Electoral College. And then 2 solid months, again, of unbridled joy propaganda covering Kamala Harris, protecting her from all criticisms. And she's doing worse than that guy. She's definitely a worse candidate. Can you imagine if 10% of the mainstream media coverage against Kamala was negative coverage, how far down she would be in the popular vote to the evil orange man. So Anna, you're just wrong right there. I want you to know that. I want everybody to know, because I am the greatest Biden hype man of all time. I actually thought he was going to win the 2024 election, and when Kamala loses, I will be saying, I told you so. And when Kamala wins, I will scrub this part from the video and pretend like it never happened, because I never, ever admit when I'm wrong.
Because Trump he's a special threat. And so since they've decided that Trump is a very special threat, well, then journalists should hide information about Kamala Harris from you, so you don't vote for Trump and definitely vote for Kamala Harris. In other words, they want the media to manipulate you and do the exact opposite of journalism.
Right here, Anna gives a good summation of what's going on, and you could tell this really bothers her. And part of the reason why this bothers her is because Anna, over the course of the past couple of years, has decided that she is going to move away from team sports in terms of politics. She wants to emphasize the truth, even when it disagrees with her. But also, I think that Anna understands that voting for a candidate just because they're not Trump essentially means that voters like her are never going to get the policies that they want. Because when you position your opposition as Hitler and you have to do anything except vote for Hitler in that particular scenario, that means you can run anyone. The most corrupt Democrat, the most corporatist Democrat, the most never going to actually live up to their promises Democrat. And Anna's not about that. She wants a Democratic candidate that's actually going to push for the change for the policies that she supports, not a Democratic candidate that is only an empty suit that is running opposite the evil orange man and is going to win based on the fact that they're not the evil orange man. She wants somebody that stands for something rather than somebody who's just opposed to something.
But there's a false equivalency going on in the coverage of this race, in that Donald Trump can say whatever crazy things he wants to say about submarines and sharks and electric batteries, whatever he wants to say.
So real quick, I want to know what the evil orange man said about submarines, sharks, and electric batteries. Maybe, just maybe, he talked about the fact that we should toss out our submarines, attach a battery to a shark, and then go deep sea diving in them, because that's honestly a policy that I can get behind. But all joking aside, this is how he frames the evil orange man statement. And get a load of what he's throwing out all these absurdities in order to contradict in the media, despite the fact that this is an absolutely crucial question, and on the substance matters way more to the American people than the orange man talking about submarines, sharks, and electric batteries.
And it's not really covered in the sense that it's covered describing who said it, why he said it, and who the man is, Trump, out of his mind. And always in that story, in the equivalency, the false equivalency by too many reporters and too many American newspapers, there's also, by the way, Kamala Harris changed her mind on fracking.
So first of all, this almost never happens. Negative hit pieces about the evil orange man almost never have a balance on Kamala Harris changing her position on a bunch of different various issues. In fact, typically what segments do when they talk about how Kamala wasn't releasing any policies, doesn't actually stand for anything, and is through her surrogates talking about how she's no longer in favor of this or that rather than committing to policies on her own, is that they deflect to the evil orange man. So just the opposite is true in terms of the mainstream media, and MSNBC is definitely a culprit of that. And by the way, I will point out, her position on fracking is way more crucial to the election than what Trump may or may not have said about sharks, submarines, and electric car batteries, because Pennsylvania is a key state for the Harris campaign, for the Trump campaign. They are reliant on natural gas. It's a major industry over there. So Kamala flip-flopping on fracking, but not really, because she said she never changed her mind, and her last stated position on it was that she would ban fracking, absolutely.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities.
And when she says, oh, in the 2020 vice presidential debate, she made her position clear
that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact.
When she actually said Joe Biden's position was that he won't ban fracking, means that yes, 100%, it is still an open question what her public position on this particular issue is actually going to be.
They always throw in something like that in the coverage of the story. It's ridiculous. We don't cover the man for how dangerous he is.
I mean, again, absolute madness. They always talk about the evil orange man as a threat to democracy. He's going to take over the government, authoritarian, Cheeto Hitler, Orange Man Hitler, evil orange man, over and over and over again. The idea that they're downplaying this in any way, shape, or form, and then pressing Kamala Harris on policy, absurd. When has that ever happened? She doesn't take questions from the press. The answer is obviously that doesn't happen. The media is pretending she's not even the border czar and all these other crazy things. There was actually an article, no joke, that said that J.D. Vance was trying to inappropriately tether her to Biden, even though the Biden administration ticket was the Biden-Harris ticket, aka Kamala Harris. That is how they run defense for her. So what they're talking about must be from Earth 2 or something like that, because it's never happened in this universe.
You don't cover the man for how dangerous he is. I don't know what country I'm living in, but I feel like we get wall-to-wall coverage about Trump being a danger to this country. It is incessant. It is all they talk about on MSNBC. Did he just suggest that journalists shouldn't report on Kamala Harris changing her mind on fracking? Is that not an important policy that voters should be informed about?
So I actually haven't pre-watched all of Anna's responses to the Joe Scarborough segment. I saw the first bit of it, the setup, so I didn't realize that I was essentially going to say the same exact thing that she said, but I do find it funny that she's talking about how she must be in an alternate universe if this is actually the case. But I want to go to a key point that Anna brings up that I find to be fascinating.
And also, is he under the impression that telling Americans the truth about where Kamala Harris stands on the issues automatically means that Donald Trump is going to win the election?
That is the key point right there. Anna hit the nail on the head, and it's quite startling to be confronted with this reality, which is the people at MSNBC, the people boosting up Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party hype men and women, believe that if you knew what Kamala Harris actually believed, actually stood for, what policy positions she actually held, then Donald Trump would win the election. Which I would respond to that with, why don't you run a different candidate? Why don't you change your policies and meet the American people where they're at, instead of trying to run somebody, then cover up what they believe in, install them into office, and have them implement their agenda that the American people are so opposed to that, according to you, they would vote for Donald Trump rather than having that in office. And again, according to you, Trump is the evil orange man, evil insurrectionist. So these people would rather overthrow the United States of America's government, again, according to them, than have Kamala's policies if you actually knew what she believed. And by the way, this isn't a joke. There's an Erin Burnett segment, I'm going to jump off for a bit and then come back to this, where she goes over what's in Kamala's 2019 platform, and she is shocked.
Tonight, Kamala Harris releasing details of her policy positions for the first time on her campaign website. A K-File investigation has uncovered, meantime, a 2019 questionnaire. And in this questionnaire, Harris laid out some much more liberal stances, among them on immigration. So in 2019, in what K-File found, she said she would cut funding to ICE, writing, quote, "Our immigrant detention system is out of control, and I believe we must end the unfair incarceration of thousands of individuals, families, and children. I was one of the first senators after President Trump was elected to advocate for a decrease in funding to ICE."
She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this. And she said she also supported it for federal prisoners. Now, she also pledged to slash immigration detention by 50%, close all family and private facilities, and decrease funding for ICE, and then to end ICE detainers with local law enforcement.
Yeah, Kamala Harris was in favor in 2019 of transgender surgeries paid for by the government. And by the way, those minors were illegal immigrants.
I mean, these are things that, you know, it would be hard to think that you would come up with taxpayer funding gender transitions for detained migrants. And yet this, as you say, written and and verbally. What else, did you find?
Amazing. This is what these people actually think that their base, the Democratic Party base, wants in terms of policy. This is what she put on her platform. And by the way, it's pretty obvious why she had to drop out a month before the Democratic primary.
When I started my career, when I started working at TYT back in 2007, there really wasn't like left-wing media. There was like Fox News, and the right-wing media infrastructure was kind of being built. And I prided myself and the left wing on the fact that we didn't try to manipulate audiences, and we didn't try to lie to people or cover up the truth about our preferred candidates or preferred politicians. We didn't want to stoop low and do what the right wing was doing.
So I'm going to say two things. One, I do in large part disagree with Anna about there not being left wing or Democratic Party media when she came into existence. Obviously, most of the media was on the side of the Democratic Party. I believe she started at TYT in and around 2006, 2007. I don't remember exactly. It's not a big deal. It's not that important. And this was the lead up to the worship campaign of Barack Obama. But in Anna Kasparian's defense, just prior to that time period, MSNBC was not what we see it as today. MSNBC was actually trying to copy the business model of Fox News. They were trying to be Fox News Light, and you'll remember this because a bunch of different MSNBC hosts said that they were actually fired from the network and given golden handcuffs in order to stop them from going on air and talking about how they were against the Iraq War. So at that point in time, there were not these progressive type outlets, and TYT was different from even the liberal regular media. And again, this also did follow a time period of post 9/11 George Bush, where the country was kind of all united on issues back in 2003, like the Iraq War. So while I do disagree with her overall take, I will say it was more true at that narrow period of time than ever before that there wasn't this streak of progressive people on the internet.com. But now you run into these people every day. All these people have their outlets. Then there's all the streamers that are always trying to become more leftist, more crazy, more radical than the people who have established outlets. So yeah, it's definitely different. But what she's hitting on right here is the fact that she doesn't want to be, when she came up, someone who deliberately obfuscated facts in their reporting.
And now we're in this awful era of conditioning audiences and readers to expect journalists to cheerlead like partisan hacks for one candidate or the other. And if you don't do it, if you don't engage in it, they get mad at you. You're supposed to be my cheerleader. You're supposed to cheerlead for my preferred candidate. What are you doing? How dare you talk about Kamala Harris and how she went from being against fracking to now saying she's totally in favor of fracking? How dare you? The media doesn't fearmonger about Trump enough? Has he considered that maybe, just maybe, the media had been fearmongering about Trump so much, so often, that Americans have become desensitized to it? Has he considered that? Has he considered the fact that Joe Biden ran his campaign almost entirely on Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and it wasn't working? Why do you think it wasn't working?
Look, I 100% agree with Anna on this. It's not that they don't go after Trump enough or they don't try to marginalize him and his supporters enough. It's that for 10 years, you've been telling us that the evil orange man was Hitler. He was president for 4 years. The Hitlerian policies didn't come out. They didn't come to fruition. So we don't believe you anymore, or the general public doesn't believe you anymore. And to be clear, Anna's also right about that expectation for cheerleading for a certain candidate, because that definitely exists. It exists on all sides of the spectrum. However, I will give TYT credit because they were people who attacked Barack Obama. They attacked Joe Biden. In fact, one of the things that frustrated me as a long-term viewer of the Young Turks was the fact that leading up to the election, I would feel like sometimes they would back off a bunch of their attacks in order to make sure that the other guy didn't win. But they were never these kind of cheerleaders for the establishment Democratic candidates like the people in the mainstream media were. Now, that being said, obviously, they were 100% in the tank for Bernie Sanders. I mean, Cenk is a political activist. He helped start Justice Democrats, which got us Ocasio-Cortez and other members of the squad. So the idea that they've ever been objective or anything like that is absurd, but they at least tell you what they believe and advocate for those candidates and don't play team sports for the broader team. And I also got to give you guys credit out there in my audience, although I'm going to make this really short because I don't like to praise you, because you guys know I'm not this super crazy MAGA Trump guy. I never have been. I point out over and over again that by the numbers, he is the most likely candidate, or one of the most likely candidates, to lose the election. But I do understand that people don't feel like Ron DeSantis is as anti-establishment enough, or these other candidates will, even if they win, actually fulfill the promises that they want fulfilled in the same way that the evil orange man would. So I get that a lot of people, even understanding the risk of losing with Trump, would rather take that shot than nominate a candidate that seems like statistically they were a lock to win. And by the way, I totally agree with that, because they were giving us statistical models about how Nikki Haley was the most likely to win, and no way I wanted to nominate Nikki Haley as the candidate for the Republican Party. As much as I appreciate DeSantis as a governor, as somebody who governs, there was no way I was going to go, well, statistically, Nikki Haley is polling better in the head-to-heads than all of these candidates, according to these mainstream media polls, so we should just sacrifice every principle and nominate her to be in the Oval Office.
This is the most brain-dead argument I have heard on MSNBC, and that is saying something. Because there are a lot of brain-dead arguments made on MSNBC.
Whoa. Anna, listen. Let's not be dramatic. Let's not say things that we don't mean. I promise you, and I'm making this promise from me to you, so you know that I mean it, that I can find you a more brain-dead argument on MSNBC if you give me a little bit of time. Give me 2 weeks, 3 days, 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 35 seconds, and I will find you 18 takes that are absolutely, for sure, worse arguments on MSNBC than what is being put forward right here. This is actually one of the most honest segments on MSNBC, because they're saying, we don't care what Kamala stands for. We don't care about you trying to do your jobs as journalists. We just want the evil orange man to lose. Pretty honest right here, honestly, and pretty straightforward. So let's not get out of hand. Let's not get out of pocket, all right?
What are we, 9 years in to Donald Trump's era in American politics, still doesn't know how to cover Donald Trump. Their objectivity actually is not objective at all. It ends up playing to Donald Trump's advantage.
Don't be objective because it plays to Donald Trump's advantage. Why? Because journalists want to answer a question about how Kamala Harris would handle Afghanistan, what her views on Afghanistan happen to be. Do the American voters have the right to know where Kamala Harris stands on those issues? Or should we be kept in the dark because Trump bad? Trump bad. That's what Joe Scarborough wants. He wants journalists to line up and say in unison over and over again, Trump bad. Because that's been real effective, right?
Okay, so like I said in the open, I did not pre-watch this video all the way through. I wanted to give you guys at least a partial first reaction, first look, and whatnot to what Ana Kasparian is going to deliver. And I am not gonna lie, the Trump bad thing.
Trump bad. Trump bad. Trump bad.
It has me cracking up. A plus work, Miss Kasparian. I truly appreciate it. Thank you again from me to you. Thank you. I really, really do. And by the way, there is a less than 0% chance that will be an ongoing clip on this channel going forward. So you're all going to have to deal with it.
Listen, he wants to be a cheerleader for one side. That's great. Go be a cheerleader for one side. But don't sit there on your boring ass morning show where you tried to gaslight the American public about Biden's mental health and pass judgment on people who are trying to get Kamala Harris to answer questions on something amazing, policy, where she stands on policy. Because there are voters out there, believe it or not, who aren't partisan hacks. Those are the individuals who actually end up deciding elections. And they want to know where Kamala Harris stands on policy.
All right, so now's the time that we gotta get really serious. Now's the time that we really gotta break things down and we really have to assess what's going on right here. Because I believe, and look, I'm not saying anything because maybe there are other people who do the thing that Ana just did, but she stole that from me. That was stolen from me. I do that when I'm like, collard greens for Kamala Harris, and Anna just stole the bit, inserted the word policy.
On something amazing, policy, where she stands on policy,
Which I don't think is fair. Honestly, I'm gonna be dead serious with it. I'm gonna have to write an angry letter. I'm gonna work on it right after this video and say, hey, look, if you're gonna do that, you got to give us at least one collard greens in that voice. Then the bit is yours. Then you can have it. I will retire the bit because I'm not fair like that. But I mean, come on. I noticed it earlier.
on something amazing, policy, where she stands on policy.
Everybody knows what was just done right there. And honestly, jaw-dropping moment.
Simply hearing Trump bad over and over again doesn't work for them.
All right, I'm going to drop my allegations, or as the Super Ray would say, alizations.
False allegations and not facts.
I'm going to raise the jaw of Mr. Skeleton right here and say, let's forgive and forget, because Anna just did the Trump bad thing again.
Simply hearing Trump bad, Trump bad doesn't work for them.
And honest, I find it funny. I was not expecting it.
I think the American people deserve to know where both candidates stand on policies. Don't insult the intelligence of voters. And more importantly, please don't pressure journalists to suck at their jobs by being nothing more than partisan hacks like Joe Scarborough is, like Mika Brzezinski is.
Look, all I can say right here is 100% true. And also, has anybody noticed that Mika Brzezinski sounds a bit Russian?
I think the American people deserve to know where both candidates stand on policies. Don't insult the intelligence of voters.
Listen, true right there. You shouldn't go out of your way to insult voters. For whatever reason, when Democrats do this, it is taken way more harshly by the base. See all the different reporters that didn't like that Hillary Clinton called them deplorables, and also telling the media to be even more hacky, even more pro-Kamala after we got 2 straight months of a propaganda campaign for her, after excuse was made on behalf of Kamala not doing an interview, is absolutely crazy. Again, the evil orange man is going to be able to say that he stood up to gunfire and Kamala is too cowardly to sit for an interview. That's pathetic. Also, collard greens.
It is unbelievable to me. So look, turns out that some are taking this crappy advice already, as left-wing misinformation, unfortunately, is now part of our media landscape. And it's not something that I'm happy about, because a lot of these sources I used to trust, I used to believe they're reporting at face value. And then I came to the realization that they weren't telling the whole truth. They were admitting parts of the story. They were, in some cases, taking Trump out of context. And it was infuriating, because if you put Trump in context and you actually report the story accurately, I'm not gonna suddenly be a huge Trump fan, but I am gonna get angry when I find out that the sources that I trusted were intentionally taking him out of context to make him seem worse than he really is.
So I like this portion of the segment, and it's something that Anna offers that I just couldn't offer reacting to Morning Joe, because it actually fulfills 2 different roles. First and foremost, she's speaking on behalf of the citizen. When you find out that you've been lied to about something that the evil orange man said for years and years and years, it's one of those myths that never dies related to him, and you realize that you've just been wrong, that's a hard pill to swallow. But more importantly, what Anna said in the beginning, this relates back to it, is that she believed that left-wing media had a commitment to truth first and foremost, and like that Stephen Colbert, or maybe it was Jon Stewart, but I believe it was Stephen Colbert thing, that truth just happened to have a left-wing bias. So for years later, after she's been working at this organization, realized that a bunch of her sources aren't actually that trustworthy, for Joe Scarborough to come out and say that actually objective reality has a bias towards Trump and you shouldn't actually cover objective reality, you should just lie, that's too much for her to bear. There's too much cognitive dissonance in it for her. And unlike many other left-wing streamers who will just say, I'm a propagandist, I don't care, I'll lie as long as I achieve my ends, Anna actually got into this. She went to journalism school before this because she believes, at least fundamentally in her core core in the truth. That's why she's made a bunch of different retractions. That's why she spends a lot of time looking into stories that are put out by the right wing and the left calls them disinformation to try to find the truth of the matter to present it to her audience. It's not for the views, because a lot of the views on her channel on those videos are actually low because almost every audience likes to be pandered to in a certain degree, and her challenging that narrative, that orthodoxy, and rebuking it isn't actually all that popular. But you know what? It's worth it, and it's respectable work.
So there was a piece out in the New York Times today that I think you should all read. And it was titled, "Left-Wing Misinformation is Having a Moment. America's Right Flank Remains the Chief Purveyor of Misinformation, but this summer's political tumult created ideal conditions for falsehoods to spread among progressives." So let's just quickly focus on the Trump assassination attempt, where Joy Reid, an MSNBC host with more than 340,000 followers on Threads, raised questions about Trump's injury from the shooting. Doubts that some of her followers interpreted when his medical details were not released as implying a cover-up. Then you also had that Brooklyn Dad Defiant guy on X, who has more than 1.3 million followers. He amplified such suspicions by offering his own doubts about Trump's injury. Yeah, the FBI confirmed that Trump got shot in the ear. Okay, like it's confirmed by the FBI. Like, who are we?
Yeah, the Trump wasn't really shot or staged the whole thing and a guy just happened to be killed and other people happened to be injured conspiracy is pretty unhinged. And I'm somebody who pushes back on a bunch of different conspiracies that are put forward by the right side of the political spectrum, because oftentimes I find them to be extraordinary explanations for things that are not all that complicated, and I don't think you need to go there in order to make your point. But this one's pretty bad, and again, it comes from a lot of mainstream media hosts. Now, there have been many Fox News hosts that have pushed a pervasive conspiracy theory from time to time, but this idea that Trump would stage an assassination, especially with all the other things that they believe related to the evil orange man, that he's self-centered, he only cares about himself, and he wouldn't risk an injury to his pinky for anyone else, for him to actually say, hey, shoot right here and nick my ear and kill people behind me, but they're just assuming that he doesn't care about that. But that level of risk to Trump, again, especially when you think about his head turn and how that saved his life, is crazy. It's a conspiracy theory that doesn't make sense in the context of all the other things they believe about the evil orange man. This is the problem that I have with a lot of conspiracy theories right now, is that a lot of them have no benefactor, they don't make sense fundamentally, and they're contradictory with themselves. And this is a perfect example of that. And by the way, I'm seeing posts today about this.
Really, we're gonna play this game where we engage in conspiracy theories? Like, on one hand, criticize the right wing for engaging in conspiracy theories as we engage in conspiracy theories? I think it's pretty gross. But as a result, more than 1/3 of President Biden's supporters believe the assassination attempt may have been staged, according to a poll in July by Morning Consult.
So yeah, they give you that number, which to me is crazy in every possible way, because Trump is one of the most filmed and photographed people of all time. We have a bunch of different angles of this attempt, including a photo, I believe, from the New York Times, where you can actually see the bullet in frame with Trump's head from the assassination attempt. But on the other hand, have you guys considered that they're making Ana Kasparian say that the assassination attempt is real?
But let me just be clear about something. There are all sorts of allegations about the Heritage Foundation's document, which again, they release every election cycle. This is the first time we have the Democratic Party specifically tying it to Donald Trump, because some of the people associated with the Heritage Foundation used to be in Trump's administration. Okay, does that mean that Trump is, you think Trump respects anyone who was in his administration? But okay, let's talk about the specific allegations that we've heard about what's in Project 2025, which is a 900-page document.
Honestly, I did not expect Ana to go in this direction, where she starts going over Project 2025 and state the obvious that the Heritage Foundation has been releasing these policy papers over and over again, consistently every single election cycle, and the idea that some people from a Republican administration would go to the Heritage Foundation is not proof positive that this is connected to Trump, because people always bounce from political administrations to corporations to think tanks, all of the above, in order to cash out and make money.
The media knows that most Americans, they don't have the bandwidth to sit down and read a 900-page document. So they get to say whatever they want about it. They get to claim that it includes all sorts of things that it doesn't even actually say. So for instance, Vice President Harris said on July 23rd that Project 2025 called for cutting Social Security. It was not a one-time mistake. She also said at a July 11th, 2024 campaign event, Project 2025 includes a plan to cut Social Security. Well, NewsGuard, which does a pretty good job in fact-checking these types of claims on both sides, took a look and they found out that the Project 2025 policy playbook titled Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise, does not even mention any proposed changes to Social Security.
Now, to be fair to Kamala Harris, even though Anna quoted her multiple times making this claim about Project 2025 proposing cuts to Social Security, that could have been from the same speech, just repeated over and over and over again, because as we know, Kamala will give the same speech, give or take a black cent.
You better thank a union member for the 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
Multiple times at various different locations.
Okay, great. Left-leaning news outlet, thegrio.com, advanced the myth that Project 2025 proposes banning Muslims. The mandate for leadership includes no mention of a Muslim ban or any religion or ethnicity-specific entry ban.
So I appreciate Anna Kasparian clarifying this point as well, because the Social Security thing is always something that is going to be argued about, and the Republicans are always going to be painted as trying to cut it because that panders to elderly voters. But I like that she highlighted this thing, which they're trying to resurrect the Muslim ban and say it's in Project 2025, which again has no connection to the evil orange ban. It's another one of the Heritage Foundation policy papers, and there's no mention at all whatsoever of these types of entry bans, whether they be religious or ethnic.
I'm not saying this to help Trump. I think Trump is plenty bad on his own, and there are factual attacks that you could use against Donald Trump to win the election. Making things up to scare Americans into voting for the Democratic candidate, all it does is lead to people feeling totally disgusted with politics, because people eventually find out. And people are getting sick of the fear tactics. And what's amazing to me is that the people over there at Morning Joe desperately want journalists to engage in more scare tactics, to lie to audiences more, to lie to readers more, to essentially do political cheerleading for one party over the other.
Listen, Anna right here is preaching the gospel. This is toxic for our country, and I give her a lot of respect for coming out and making this point during the election season and relating it to lies about the evil orange man. That is pretty difficult to do, and you got to give credit where credit is due, because I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that Anna's taken the red pill, is gonna vote for the evil orange man, or anything like that. But she is committed, and she's recommitted time and time again to trying to be more honest, to trying to be more truthful, and I think we can all appreciate that. One of the reasons why I'm not big on covering certain political cases or House hearings for Senate hearings or whatever is because a lot of that is political theater, and it's hard to get beyond the partisanship in order to get into what is factual. So I like to stay on criminal cases, because while the court of public opinion is not a court, actual criminal courts have standards of which evidence needs to meet in order to be introduced there. So I like this orderly, standardized thing where you're actually bringing stuff to the table that has some backing. And look, let's be perfectly honest, there have been times, especially on Twitter.com, where I've tweeted about something and then done the research on it, only to find out that that is just nonsense that is being spread on my side. Now, I always tell people, whenever you find something that's too good to fact check, whenever you find something that agrees with you, but also maximizes your argument and your position tenfold, double check, triple check, quadruple check those points, because that's the thing that you are going to be so tempted to put out there, only to find out later that it's wrong. A perfect example of what I'm talking about is the Haitian migrant story that I just released a video on. It would have been so easy for me to say, look, they're killing the ducks, they're eating the ducks, they're killing the cats, they're eating the cats. But the fact of the matter is, I looked up and looked into a bunch of the different videos and photos and found out that while these things are happening. The person who got arrested for eating their neighbor's cat or killing and trying to eat their neighbor's cat was a regular black American and was not from Springfield, Ohio. I found out that the guy holding the duck in the most famous photo that has come out related to this was from a different part of Ohio as well. I could have just given you guys the red meat you wanted, or should I say the cat meat and duck meat that you wanted, but I wanted to make sure that I was giving you factual information, so I undercut my own side, my own supposed narrative, to give you the most factual interpretation of what was going on humanly possible. And I hope that you guys appreciate that. Now I'm going to cut back to Anna making noises because it's still funny.
And whether it's done on behalf of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, I'm sick of it. You need real journalism, factual journalism, actual reporting in order to have a well-functioning democracy. Without it, we are hopeless. And so hopefully journalists don't listen to knuckleheads like Joe Scarborough and that other guy, Barnacle, whatever his name is. I mean, just, we don't like Trump, so we want you to lie on behalf of Kamala Harris or Biden or whoever. I mean, they've been outed as liars. Have they considered that maybe journalists don't want to embarrass themselves the way the crew over at Morning Joe has?
Look, I appreciate the showmanship. I saw Anna on Sitch and Adam, and she's like, listen, I want to deliver the news in a more calm and concise way, you know, more adult and more professional and whatnot. And honestly, don't do it. Keep the rage, keep the voices, keep the entertaining stuff, but be more factually based, because I like all those things. I'm not gonna lie. That's one of the reasons why I did so many responses to TYT versus the Majority Report or Kyle Kulinski, because they're dry and boring, and not because it's so smart and so intellectual and all that, but because they don't have a screaming Turkish man next to a screaming Armenian lady. And honestly, I appreciated that. So yeah, keep up the showmanship. I can respect it. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, you can show me by leaving a like. There's a little thumbs up thing. You click that like this. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Anna Kasparian going after Morning Joe. Till next time.